Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Matt Rants. This Matt Rants is going to be, I don't know if you can hear that already. It's going to be kind of interesting. You're going to hear dogs barking. You're going to hear people potentially yelling, maybe even some light Hispanic music in the background. So I'm recording elsewhere. I am not recording at my house. I'm actually recording at my cousin's house in Pennsylvania. It's going to be a very fun episode, potentially a lot of cuts even. Really depends on how everything's going to go. So it's going to be great. So let's see what we have on the topic, on the agenda today. Today we are talking about the Microsoft E3 press conference. So why are we talking about that? Well, already we talked about EA's, we talked about Nintendo's, which I was actually at the special Nintendo Direct over at Nintendo World in New York, which I'm going to show that footage by the end of this weekend, hopefully maybe earliest Monday, because again, at my cousin's graduation, not at home, very hard to actually record literally anything. But anyway, right now we're going to talk about Microsoft E3's press conference, and also we're going to grade it. And I also want to mention that I'm not going to talk about every single game, because I mean, they even touted the fact that they had like 50 games, 18 exclusives, and 15 world premieres. That's a lot of games. We're going to be here for hours and hours and hours on end, and I don't have that kind of time, and I don't think you do either. So some games I'm going to be very, very brief with. If you guys want me to talk more about those games in particular, you can comment below, tell me, hey Matt, would really like you to talk about those games, or you can go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/GGProductions, and literally just go to one of the tiers, and under the tiers for video suggestions, just say, hey, I want you to do more about this game in particular, everything about it, or even doing gameplay footage when it comes out. So if you guys want me to do any of that, again, comment below or go to our Patreon. So let's move on. Okay. So Microsoft, the way they started this E3, I thought it was very interesting because first off, normally I think that it's better when a company or companies in general talk about their new IPs at either, these E3 conferences. But at the same time, when you look at something like Halo and how how large Halo is and how many people love Halo, and personally, I've never played Halo, but it doesn't mean that everyone else hasn't. So when I think about Halo and I see that they had the Halo Infinite trailer, I think immediately, oh damn, right, this is an amazing way to open up your E3. So while I'm a bigger fan of newer IPs, I have to admit, it's Halo. And then immediately jumping to bringing out I'm calling him the Xbox boss, B-A-W-S, Phil Spencer, because he has so many different roles. Calling him, or, has kind of moved up the ranks. So I'm just going to call him the boss, Bows. When looking at him and not only was the script amazing, but also just you can tell that he's very passionate about his product. He's very passionate about his work, and in no way am I trying to slight Reggie or slight. I want to look back at my notes for the CEO of EA. But so I'll be kind of just stalling for time as I can find that. But still, when looking at them, I'm not, again, nothing against Reggie. In fact, I actually, in a way, prefer pre-recorded messages rather than live, because yes, it's nice to work off the crowd, but at the same time, when they're pre-recorded, you kind of get to the point a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. As much as I love the crowd jumping in and being enthusiastic and energetic about the products as well, at the same time, they can kind of slow down the pace if they're not as energetic. Looking at you, EA press conference. But I'm not trying to say anything bad about Andrew Wilson at all. But at the same time, I do think that Phil Spencer was very energetic and really was very charismatic, and that definitely lended to the actual press conference and kind of just this general energy that was there. So I think that, he was great. But at the same time, and also again, I want to mention comparing it to EA's, which at first I wanted to kind of just grade these separately, but we can't just not talk about the other ones. Like they don't just exist in their own little bubbles. They all are on the same stage, if you will. So when looking at EA's, while I have nothing against the specific host, I believe her name was Andrea Renee. Andrea Renee. Nothing against her at all. I just think that it's a lot better to bring out the CEO and other people who have actually worked on these games rather than trying to go for a specific look of a specific person. Again, it doesn't have to be an issue with Andrea Renee. They could have brought out a PewDiePie. They could have brought out a Markiplier, someone that I know, maybe not even someone that I like necessarily, but someone that I know. And it would still feel like it's just some host hosting an event. Even though she was good at her job, I still do feel like it was a bit off. So in this case, bringing out Phil Spencer to kind of open up the event was great. But even moving on after that, having him talk about the fact that they had 50 games, 18 exclusives, and 15 world premieres. At first, I was wowed, and I gave it a high score because I thought, wow, that's so many games. But then kind of thinking about the fact that, yes, it was a lot of games, but did they actually focus on each and every game? Because, now granted, yes, I understand that if they did, they'd be there for 3 hours, so I totally get it. But at the same time, it does feel as if some of the games were footnotes, and that's going to happen during every single E3 press conference, and I totally get that. Some games are just going to be trailers, and I'm just going to sit there and go, wow, that was a trailer. But in this case, there's a giant list of games that I actually won't be going in depth in at all, not even one sentence, because they were so fast. Even, I would argue, well, okay, maybe not as fast as the Nintendo Direct, to be fair, but I still think that they were really fast, at least with the amount of games that they did showcase. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But first off, let's jump right into Ori. Ori was listed as an exclusive, and I want to mention that it looks beautiful, and frankly, I'm kind of sad that it's an exclusive because personally, I do not have an Xbox One, do not really have Xbox products. Nothing against Xbox. It's just that I never really owned Xbox products. They were mostly my dad's, so I never really got the chance to have them. Now my brothers have them, and I shake my fist at them going, come on, guys. I might need some Xbox products. But yeah, so I don't have any personally, but Ori looks like an amazing game, and I do want to check it out if I can eventually get an Xbox One or Xbox One X, whichever. Looking at Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is also a world premiere, in a way it reminded me of Onimusha, sort of. But that just might be some of the overly Japanese themes. Or general Japanese setting. Overall, it looked like a cool game as well. I just feel like I want to see more, I think. Before I just go, oh man, I totally want to get this. Also, something else, it's a world premiere, so I will admit I could probably end up getting it on the PS4 and also be happy as well. Now, after that, they were not super extensive, but they were longer trailers, which is a good, good for, well, Ori was longer. Sekiro was average, I would say. And then they jumped right into Howard from Bethesda talking about Fallout 4 on Game Pass and Fallout 76. Talking about how it's 4 times the size of Fallout 4. Now, I've seen some people online say, hey, listen, I don't care if something is 4 times the size of a game as long as there's more to do in it. And frankly, I think that's an amazing way to look at it because it's really true nowadays. I feel as if, to say, oh, we're going to increase the time that you can play the game for longer, and that's why we're going to justify the $60 price point or maybe even more if there's any other kind of, DLCs and things like that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad way to look at it, the idea of, oh, let's increase the game's runtime. But again, I think what matters is, am I doing things that are worth it? Or are they just random side quests that end up kind of feel like they're copy-paste jobs, where it's just, where the idea is, oh, we need to get fuel for John, right? Okay, cool, got fuel for John, that's great. And then all of a sudden it's like, we also need to get fuel for Bob. And even if the fuel isn't in the same place, if it's just the same, and believe me, in Fallout 4, I understand, or Fallout in general, I understand that, there's a setting, there's a theme, there's, I totally understand that you're not going to have a situation where they're like, you need to collect an Xbox One and give it to Philip. Like, I understand that, it's post-apocalyptic, but at the same time, I can understand that it would be frustrating that in an open-world game to be told, hey, it's going to be even bigger than the last one. Great, but am I going to have unique missions, unique items, things that after a while, it doesn't seem like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And that's, again, something that I can understand that Fallout fans might be a little bit concerned about. Now, jumping into Fallout 76, because they actually showed a trailer for the game as well, which was great, not just the discussion, but at the same time, the trailer was kind of vague. And I say vague in the sense that I'm not saying that it didn't interest me, it didn't pique my interest, but at the same time, I kind of want to know more about Fallout 76, and I'm sure they're going to talk about it a bit more, as the months go by. But at the same time, I do feel like there's something missing from the trailer. And again, I think just in general, maybe it's better to call it a teaser instead of just an outright trailer, which is fair. But yeah, I just want to know more about Fallout 76 because it definitely intrigued me. But at the same time, I do feel like there's more that can be told. So, and I'm sure we'll get more of that in the upcoming months. So, speaking of a world premiere, though, something that I did think that they kind of explained well in the trailer, although I do want to know the gameplay more so than the story, is the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit. So that was a world premiere, and I haven't played Life is Strange. I want to, though. I've heard great things about it, and this game looks like it's going to be another classic. The one thing I want to say, though, is that, again, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, when it comes to the gameplay, I want to know if it's going to be the same type of gameplay like Life is Strange, the idea of, choose your own adventure, press X, Y, whatever it might, X, Y, well, Y if you're playing it on Xbox, but still, I'm wondering if it's going to be that, or if it's going to change, because the fact that the little kid is pretending to be a superhero. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a bit more open world, or if they're going to stick to the same kind of gameplay, which is fine if they do. I like games like that. I'm just a little bit curious if we're going to be choosing, different paths and things like that, or if it's going to be a bit more linear. So we'll have to see, again, if that will be the case as we continue on. I don't believe they mentioned the release date for this or Fallout 76. If they did, then I apologize, but in my notes, I don't have that here. Crackdown 3, that's an exclusive that apparently is being listed as February 2019. I would like to mention that Terry Crews can literally sell me on anything, and I mean anything. I want to say this game, although, well, the game looks like a lot of fun, it's another one that I still want to see more of, and I know some of you guys are probably like, Matt, really want to see more? What do you mean? Well, the thing is, I'm not saying that they didn't show off all the fun, cool things we can do in the world. However, this is coming out February 2019, and I'm kind of sitting here like, wait, this is coming out, to me anyway, really soon. What's the story about? And maybe some Crackdown fans know what the story is about. Maybe they've seen it in interviews or stuff like that. But I know this game has been delayed a lot. But in showing off the trailer, for me, as someone who doesn't know anything about Crackdown or Crackdown 3, all I know is Terry Crews is the man. Because he is. Terry Crews is amazing. And other than that, I don't really know too much. So, again, maybe that's on me. I can understand if you guys are looking at me like, no, Matt, that's on you. And that's cool. But that's kind of how I feel about the game, or at least about the trailer for the game. Because it does feel like it's coming out a bit too soon to not have enough info on it. Again, to me. Moving on to Nier Automata Remastered, which is coming out June 26, 2018. Haven't played the game, but really happy to see that DLC is getting released for it as well. Love when games get re-released with their DLC intact, because it kind of, all of us know that, eventually these games are going to stop being supported, or these consoles, rather, are going to stop being supported, so you can't get this DLC in the next, 10, 15, 20 years. So having Game of the Year type editions for games come out make me really happy, especially for someone like me who didn't really get into the game upon its first release. So now I can feel like, oh, if I'm getting the game, then I'll be getting it in full. So for me, that's great. Probably won't be getting it on the Xbox. Again, don't have the Xbox One or One X, so I'll definitely be trying to pick it up on the PS4. Again, June 26th, 2018. So that's pretty cool. I've seen a lot of friends of mine play it. They really enjoyed it. So I haven't heard one negative thing about the game, other than I think I've heard if you end up leveling up too much, then some of the bosses seem very, very easy. So in a way, they don't want you to grind, which is a little odd for a game like this. But anyway, moving on to Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus is coming out February 22nd, 2019. And I have to admit, at first I wasn't interested. I don't know, something about it didn't really stick out to me. There's some games that, are open world games with futuristic tech, and I don't know, I don't want to say they all blend together, but just something about Metro Exodus didn't really stick out. But once they showed off zombies, sharks, and goddamn demons, you know what? Yeah, I got a bit intrigued, right? The second you show off stuff like that, I'm like, oh, well, I think I might be interested. So at that point, yeah, I was into it. But I think that before that, I will admit, yeah, it was a little iffy for me, but definitely kind of got me invested in the game itself. Now, moving on, so they cut away from the trailers, that we jumped to Phil Spencer, and I think he was really needed, because we needed to have a kind of a quick reprieve from trailers, just so that we can breathe for a minute, because frankly, that is one of my issues with this press conference, specifically with Microsoft's, and it's not and look, I know I'm taking notes, so I could be be considered biased, but I don't know, maybe if you guys, agree with me as well, or you disagree, comment below. I feel as if they threw so much at us, it was kind of hard to really comprehend and kind of let it sit. All these different trailers and these different bites of games here and there and stuff like that. Now, so Phil Spencer comes in and again did a great job of showing how passionate he was for this new trailer coming out for specifically for Kingdom Hearts 3. But I do admit, though, I felt a little bit odd because it does make sense that this is the first Kingdom Hearts game coming out for an Xbox system. Of course, it's a big deal that Phil Spencer introduces it, and that's great. But at the same time, I do think that this game, and even some other games, should have been saved for their company's respective E3 press conferences. Now, that's on Square Enix to say, hey, dude, you can totally do this. Like, I don't think Phil Spencer is in any way able to or anyone in Xbox, in the Xbox company, is able to override Square Enix. But at the same time, I do think that this game, this trailer, being dropped, was a bit too early because it could have just lasted. It could have just went on. I believe the next day is when the Square Enix press conference came up. I feel like it would have been a bit bigger for Square Enix and kind of meant more if the trailer was released there, especially because, not talking about Square Enix's too much right now. That'll be the next rant. But still, Square Enix's was only 35 minutes long. So I think that having this just be another, even though this was a big thing, again, Phil Spencer introduced it, it was meant to be big. It kind of felt lost in the sea of, like, to Kingdom Hearts fans, it wasn't lost. We're sitting here, screaming Simple and Clean. Even though I love the new song that Utada Hikari actually recorded for Kingdom Hearts 3, all of us are still crying over Simple and Clean. It doesn't matter what year it is. We'll be in our 80s, I'm sure, crying over that song. But still, I feel like it did just become another game out of, all these games that introduced. However, let's talk about the actual trailer itself. Although before we do, let's mention the game comes out January 29th, 2019, barring any other issues. However, there is a pre-order thing out, a pre-order thing. You can pre-order the game alongside some other cool goodies, so I assume if the pre-order is out, they're not going to delay it, although if you guys know about any other companies that have done that in the past, comment below. But personally, I think if they're putting out those pre-orders, they're not going to want to delay the game any further, so I assume January 29th, 2019 isn't just some placeholder date. Although I think that might have been, I was talking about this on our Those Guys on the Radio channel with Tristan Walter for our an episode of Keikaku Corner. I think January 29th was actually the date that Amazon Germany had for Kingdom Hearts. So that's kind of funny if they leaked it and this was actually right. I'll have to check that a little bit later on after the rant, but I might talk about that in the Square Enix rant. But anyway, so this, first of all, I just want to say the trailer looked amazing. Obviously, the gameplay wasn't finished, or at least the sound effects were not finished, which is kind of funny because they have a lot of... It's always funny when you hear very dramatic voiceover work with no sound effects. I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of older video games, and I hate to say older because I'm talking about PS2, so it's like, oh god, that is old now. PS2 games, a lot of them, you're able to actually remove the sound effects and the background OST and still keep the voices going, or vice versa. So it becomes really funny, at least to me anyway, when you end up having something like a Dragon Ball Z game, where the voiceover acting is obviously over the top. It's a really fun, bombastic anime. And so you're playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai with no soundtrack, and you're just hearing like Chris Sabat turn into a giant ape. And I know it's Vegeta, but it's Chris Sabat turning into a giant ape. Or other things like that. And overall, to me anyway, it just becomes really, really funny. So, but moving on, back to the trailer. I have to say though, I did like that they showed off some new worlds that beforehand we only had a few screenshots of, and also some interesting twists. Like with Aqua. Remember, guys, I haven't played Birth by Sleep, but still, there was some shit. Shit hit the fan. Stuff is going down, guys. And now let's move on to Sea of Thieves, which of course is an exclusive. This is actually not the game itself, but a DLC patch or DLC pack. Personally, didn't really do much for me, and I think obviously it's because it's an exclusive for a console that I don't have. So I think right then and there, I'm like, yeah, that'll probably be the issue. Also, Sea of Thieves in general, I will admit, being a pirate kind of in an open world situation kind of seems cool to me, but I've heard that it's not as open world as people would have liked. But I will admit, though, the trailer itself was a lot of fun. It was funny, so it was cute and everything, but at the same time, I don't think it kind of made me go, "Ooh, I really want Sea of Thieves and I really want an Xbox One." So, but that's just me. If you guys disagree, again, you can talk about that in the comment section below. Moving on to Battlefield 5. This is one that, EA showed at their E3 press conference and then said, tune in tomorrow because you'll get some more. And again, it's just because I saw it already, it didn't really do much, but I do think that it was a good trailer in terms of showing off more story than EA did, so that was good. Getting getting more depth. I do think that a lot of not a lot, but some of the companies that work together on different games and products that are coming out, they didn't really utilize the idea that if this company is going to show off this trailer, then we're going to go a little bit more in depth. I feel like some companies didn't really jump on that and didn't really use that to their advantage. Some did. In this case, to be fair, EA and Microsoft did for Battlefield 5, so good for them there. But there are some other companies which I think didn't really. Or if they did, it was maybe a bit too minimal. And we'll get to that when I do some other rants a little bit later on during the week. Now, moving on to Forza Horizon 4. This was the exclusive world premiere. So this one's coming out October 2nd, 2018. I'm not the biggest fan of racing games unless they're Burnout, but I won't say that the game did not look stunning. I mean, I personally, though, I would like to say, I would like to see if other modes of transportation, like they mentioned, if they would play a bigger role in the game itself, because I kind of find it funny if, like, there's a bunch of cars trying to, drive around and there's just a bike. Like, I don't know if they're going to put you as a bicyclist up against other bicyclists, or if they're going to be like, nah, dude, just take your bicycle, just go up against an Audi. That's like, okay. Anyway, but when Ralph Fulton came on from Playground Games, I will admit he wasn't that charismatic, at least again comparing it to our overlord Phil Spencer, but I have to mention though, he definitely did sell me on the game, right? Because the idea of seasons, to me anyway, are really cool. Yes, I will admit that games as a service, I'm not a big fan of that. Like the idea that, if you get a game, you're going to be playing it all year round no matter what. But I still admit that, I do enjoy the idea of a game being games that aren't Animal Crossing being more like Animal Crossing, or games being a bit more like Pokemon with the day-night cycle, things like that. So, and I know some of you are going to laugh at me and say that that's how it's been for years for many different games, and I know that, but to have a racing game look this good and have the seasons and things like that are pretty cool. Also, world events, like, to me anyway, seem very much like Fortnite, or at least how Fortnite has been described to me and what I've seen little bits here and there. Although I do think, though, that may be a little bit awkward when a bunch of cars are crashing into each other trying to get to events. Either way, again, the game has been, I've been sold on the game, but I do think it's a little odd. The world events are a little bit odd to me personally. Alright, so jumping back to Phil Spencer now, because he came back out again, another reprieve, talks about, he introduced a new Microsoft studio called The Initiative, and he welcomed Undead Labs, Ninja Theory, and Compulsion Games to the, Microsoft fold, and also mentioned that they acquired Playground Games. This really didn't mean much to me, but to any of you guys out there who know about these studios, maybe that means a lot more to you, and that's pretty cool. Also, I think this is the time to mention that I am very sick, and my god, this Matt Rants might in fact kill me. So that'll be great. That'll be a great thing that'll be good for the ratings. So, alright, now let's move on to We Happy Few, which is actually coming out August 10th, 2018. So I want to say that I'm really happy that this trailer showed some actual story, and maybe I just haven't been keeping up with the trailers that have been released recently, but I want to mention that the few that I saw definitely, while they made me want to take a look at the game, I feel like I didn't really know much about it. So they were great teasers, but at the same time, I just really wish that I could take a better look at the game, and I feel like these trailers did, or this trailer specifically, did just that. So very happy. I'm also happy to see that it's coming out August 10th. Like, that's actually really soon, in my opinion, when it felt like the game kind of went a little MIA, kind of underground for a little bit. Didn't really know what was going on with the release schedule there, personally. Moving on to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, it was considered a console launch exclusive, coming out winter 2018. Cool is what my thoughts are. Literally cool. Doesn't do much for me, though. So if it does for you, then that's great. Another game coming out winter 2018 is Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, and is also considered a world premiere. As an anime fan, the art style does interest me, but the battle mechanics might not. But hey, I mean, Definitive Edition, I imagine that means that there'll be DLC on the disc, which is amazing. So let's move on to The Division 2, which was a world premiere. They definitely focused a lot on this game. To me, while the gameplay seemed awesome, and running on what is presumably Air Force One really does a good job of introducing us to this new world. However, when I did look at the trailer, at first it kind of threw me off. Now, I get that trailers need to be a bit vague, and maybe Division fans knew exactly what was happening, but personally, I felt like it was kind of going in way too many directions, and I just wanted to know what was going on, what was this about, and to be fair, I still don't even know exactly what's going on with the Division itself. Like, it seems like everyone died, so there's no zombies or anything like that. Again, this was probably made for Division fans in mind, not for me, the casual noob that does not know enough about the Division. Either way, it looked like fun, not my type of game, but hopefully it's yours. And for some reason, I don't have an actual list. I don't actually have the date of when it's coming out here, which is a little odd because I'm pretty sure they mentioned that as well. Or maybe they didn't. But anyway, so let's move on to Ashley Specker. I think it was Spiker? Might have been Spiker. I don't know. She was the head engineer. I want to say that I am not a fan of Game Pass, but for those that are, you're getting Halo Master Chief Collection later this year, The Division, Fallout 4, and Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited. That's pretty cool, guys. It actually is pretty cool. But again, personally, not a big fan of Game Pass, but if you are, that's a lot of pretty good games that you're getting for. I don't know the exact price of Game Pass, but I'd imagine it's a good deal. so again, good for you guys. And now I'm going to list a bunch of games that they mentioned are coming out. Not going to talk about them because, again, they barely showed them. So let's look at these here. Outer Wilds, After Party, Kingdom 2 Crowns, The Golf Club 2019, Warhammer, Vermintide 2, Fringe War, Below, Conqueror's Blade, Waking, Raji. Yeah, I don't know why every time I see it, I think it's Raji. Raji, Super Meat Boy Forever, Planet Alpha, Islands of Nine, Battle Royale. Oh, wait, no, there's supposed to be a comma there. Sable, Harold Halibut. That's actually Harold Halibut looked really funny, actually. Bomber Crew, Children of Morta, The Wind Road, War Grove, Generation Zero, Dead Cells, and Ashen. Okay, that's that list of games. Alright, but moving on to Shadows of Tomb Raider, which is coming out September 14th, 2018. I gotta say that it looks great, but I've seen this trailer around before, so personally, I do want to know a bit more about the game before being completely sold on it. But I have to say that they got me about, I'm going to say 50% of the way there, so I need a little bit extra to get that other 50% and kind of feel well-rounded in wanting to actually purchase this game. This one was very short. It's called Session. It was a console launch exclusive, according to Microsoft, and it just made me feel very because it's just a teaser for a skateboarding game with very light skateboarding in the teaser. Like, it was just a small cutscene. So personally, I'm not impressed, but maybe I will be when they show a lot more. When it comes to the game itself, when they show more about it, then maybe I'll be more impressed. But right now, my meh levels are a lot higher, and my levels are a lot higher than my hyped levels. That's just me personally. Alright, so moving on to Black Desert, which is a console launch exclusive, and it begins as in they're beginning it like an MMORPG, beginning fall 2018. Not bad, doesn't look bad at all, but again, not really a fan of MMORPGs. Maybe you will like it, and I hope you do, but personally, it doesn't really do much for me. And nothing against MMORPGs, I just think that's a lot of time that it's very hard for me to give to a game. Even something like Final Fantasy XIV that Satish Ram and a bunch of other people who have come on the channel have really recommended to me, and it doesn't look like a bad game. It's very hard for me to devote that much time to it when I'm doing so much else as well. They are too, by the way, but still, they find the time, and frankly, good for them, and good for you if you want to play Black Desert, or even for something like Final Fantasy XIV. online. Now, moving on to Devil May Cry 5, which was listed as a world premiere. My only note that I wrote, one sentence, I was like, why does Dante look like Cody Rhodes? Because I think that's something all of us need to just look at for a second. Like, I get it, Dante got a haircut, that's cool, but why does he look like Cody Rhodes, even pre-NJPW? Like, why does he look like Cody Rhodes? It's a little odd. Other than that, game looks pretty cool. Happy that it's a direct sequel and not just some kind of reboot. Nothing against reboots at all, but at the same time, I don't know why I remixed me saying reboot, but nothing against reboots. But personally, I just find that especially after a long period of time, sequels can be fun. And if the game doesn't do well, then it's fine. We can have this be just retire the game for a while. But personally, I think I'm a bigger fan of sequels than reboots, both when it comes to movies and when it comes to games. Unless, of course, it's been that much, such a big span of time that you're like, oh no, we can really do the game differently in this reboot versus this sequel. Anyway, so moving on to Matt Walker, who is the producer, both with Capcom, by the way. Matt Walker, producer, and Hideaki Matsuno, which is the director for Devil May Cry 5. With the Devil May Cry series in general, and I think that both of them worked off each other well, and I don't feel like they droned on. However, I don't think that they kind of brought a lot to the conference overall. However, just like Phil Spencer and some other people who came on to discuss their games and things like that, just a kind of way to break up all of these trailers coming at us one after another. And I get what their role was, but they didn't really, they were fun together, but I don't think they really did much. That wasn't a cut. You're a cut. I don't know. Anyway, so either way, I do think they were fun, but I don't really think they brought much to the conference overall. But what did bring something very interesting, even though it was very short, they didn't show much of it, Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, which is a console launch coming out in 2019. That's literally the way they wrote it. New character is what I wrote. But because there is a new character coming to the game. And overall, that would be a reason, by the way, Cuphead would be a reason why I would want to get this, specifically get like Xbox One X or an Xbox One in general. Cuphead would definitely be a reason. Anyway, so moving on to Tunic, which was listed as exclusive. I will admit that this is also a game as well that would really draw me into getting an Xbox One X. So good on Tunic and good on Cuphead. But anyway, moving forward with Jump Force, which Jump Force listed as a world premiere 2019. That's what's coming out, by the way, 2019. I will buy this. I might not buy it for this console, but I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it hard. Because this game, so we haven't had something like this on a console since, yes, I know we've had, J Victory versus, and I totally get that. And I'm not saying that wasn't good, although I have heard some people complaining about it. And I say that we're complaining not negatively, like with negative connotation, actually saying that they have not been big fans of it. But I will mention, though, that my first thought when I think of a game like this, yes, I know that they also have the DS games as well that are pretty cool, but when I think of them on a console, I think of something like Battle Stadium DON. Also, if the gameplay footage they showed in the trailer is anything like the actual, like it isn't just all, fake, quote-unquote fake cutscene footage, and some of it's actual gameplay footage, then, or what could be gameplay footage, then the fighting system, the battle system for this game, very much like the open-ish world fighting Dragon Ball Z games. And frankly, that's pretty damn cool, especially bringing in all these different jump characters. Now, I don't really know what someone like Light could really do in this situation, but a lot of the more shonen characters, like characters from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Fist of the North Star, also some characters like from My Hero Academia, a lot of these games, a lot of these heroes that have, and also another thing cool, that's cool to think about as well, is that being in the year 2018, this will be released in 2019, a lot of the older and newer characters from these shonen manga / anime, they've made it over here. Right, so we have, Fist of the North Star, we've had that for a while, but now we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, not just games, we also have the anime and manga over here. We also have, who else? We also have, we've had Dr. Slump for a while, so Aurelia has always been relevant somewhat, even though she's been, obviously, kind of in the shadow of Dragon Ball, she's still always been around. But the anime movies for Dr. Slump have come out here through what company? I believe it was Discotek Media. So you can get those 5 movies through Discotek. It feels as if there's a way to experience all of these characters, although we don't know a full roster yet, of course. But it feels like we can experience a lot of these characters here instead of having to just go, oh, who's that? Oh, is that someone I should know? It feels like they're actually, they won't just be Japanese exclusives like that, kind of get brought over here and we get a little bit confused. They're people that we know and can love as well, or have loved throughout the years. I mean, if they include My Hero Academia, if they include Attack on Titan, although Attack on Titan isn't actually shown in Jump, of course, but I believe My Hero Academia is. Yes, perhaps. If not, then whoops. But I know that, if they include Jacko, that'd be great. If they include, I'm trying to think of some other characters that are Jump exclusive. Well, Bleach, I would imagine. Shaman King, sadly, can't be included because I hear that they've lost the rights to Shaman King. That's very sad. But, because Shaman King would have been a great addition to this cast of fighters. But yeah, they could have some very interesting characters throughout the years. Gintama, even if it's hasn't been as popular, still Gintama does exist in the U.S. both as manga by Viz, and apparently Funimation and Crunchyroll are teaming up to release it on DVD. And even before they release it on DVD, Sentai Filmworks had released the first 3 seasons on DVD, or at least 3 parts, which would be, I think, 39 episodes. So, I mean, that's pretty cool to think about as well. But let's move on, because I will talk about this for the rest of the Matt Rants without realizing it. And also would like to mention that the trailer did give me goosebumps. So, very cool trailer. I think I mentioned earlier, made me think of Battle Stadium DON, which was a Japanese exclusive game on the PS2. That DON stood for Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto. Hopefully, we can bring out some other Shonen Jump characters as well. And again, I think it'll be a lot of fun. Dying Light 2, that was a world premiere. I think there wasn't really a lot to go on, or at least enough to go on. It might be good, but again, like I mentioned way earlier with, let's see here, when I mention, make sure I get the name right. Like I mentioned earlier with, boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop, this is, well, I could have cut, but I did not. Like Metro Exodus, I feel like the games are kind of blending together, and I'm not saying this game won't be fun, that it won't be a different experience. Just from the trailer itself, Dying Light 2 doesn't really seem that much different. However, Chris Avalon showing and narrating the demo, it definitely helped. That right there definitely made me go, okay, this is what seemingly is going to be different from other games that have been released in this genre. However, I do want to mention, so he said the decisions will matter in the game. And I'm not going to say that he's a liar. I'm not going to say that I don't believe him. It's just so hard to believe people. It's so hard to trust games. After, being told that, oh no, don't worry, the decisions, they will all be, vastly different. When a game like this is so open world that that would be so many possibilities that I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying that he's wrong necessarily. It's just hard for me to believe. I don't want to be a huge skeptic, especially because I haven't played a lot of games like this. But it's just one of those things where decisions that he discussed definitely would change the game, no doubt. But I don't think they're as big as some gamers are hoping for, because if they would be, then these games would be developed for so many years that, they would jump from console to console to console. So I'm not saying that the decisions won't matter. Again, it's just so hard to trust. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. In no way am I trying to shit on Microsoft or Chris Avalon here, or Dying Light 2. It's just, I feel as if a lot of games have promised stuff like this, and I'm not saying I don't believe it fully. I just don't know if I believe. I'm saying I don't believe it fully, as in I don't believe anything. I just don't know if I believe the full scope of it, so I'd have to see it to believe it. And hopefully, if you guys see it, because I don't know if I'll be playing this game. If you guys see it, then you can tell me about it. Just say, hey, Matt, no, we were wrong. Right, because I feel like some of you guys understand where I'm coming from. You're like, no, Matt, we were wrong. This game definitely gets the whole, do you want to be a good guy or a bad guy thing very much. What's it called? It understands it 100%, and you really do feel like it's it's a dynamic experience. So moving on to, and I'm only laughing not because of what I just said, but because I see Battletoads exclusive world premiere 2019. All I wrote was, meme it up, kids. Anyway, moving on. Just Cause 4 world premiere coming out December 4th. Now, I always wanted to play Just Cause 3, but I have to say, so I wanted to play it, never really got the chance to. But talking about this trailer in particular, not really much to go on here to get me really interested. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool vehicles, a lot of stuff blowing up. That's great. Not really making me invested in the story because at the end of the day, as much as I know that Just Cause is known for, at least the last two games, have been known for being really, silly and wacky and using the world to your advantage. A lot how I used to play certain Grand Theft Auto games once I found out you can do certain cheats like making flying tanks. I played the game a lot differently than I probably should have, but at the same time though, I would like to know a little bit more about the story itself. And we're nearing the end of this Matt Rants. Before we get to the end, we have to talk about Gears 5, which, oh damn. Like, I thought when they showed Halo, I was like, oh, so this is the oldest IP that we're getting. And technically it is, yes, but showing Gears, I was like, oh damn, like, we're going back. Like, we're going far back. So this was the world premiere. I've only played a few minutes of the first Gears of War, and yet this drew me in very quickly. And I have to say, I do think that the trailer will mean more to longtime fans, but at the same time, I can't say that as someone who, again, only played a few minutes here and there. The first one wasn't drawn in by this, what seemingly seems to be a kind of breakdown in the team itself. Hope that this does mean more to you guys. Hope that this doesn't come out of the left field for some of you longtime fans, because again, I'm just an observer in this case, but overall it seemed very interesting, and I kind of want to see how these characters interact in smaller quarters and having them fight other bad guys and other beings and other creatures there, because as I remember them fighting in a much bigger sandbox, right? A bit more open world, and perhaps they'll jump between both open world and a smaller, closed quarters kind of setting. But I do think that's a lot interesting, and it kind of raises the horror vibes, and I think the horror vibes are something that kind of gel with me a bit more than the open world vibes. Granted, nothing against it, it's just that at this point with Gears 5, we've had so many open world post-apocalyptic type games that I don't know what else they can do with that setting to kind of change, kind of make us feel like, oh, this is different, right? Especially compared to all the games that are coming out as well now, that are, a bit more open world. Now, I'm not saying they can revitalize or reinvent the horror genre necessarily, but to me, it seems like it's something different for Gears. Maybe you guys are gonna laugh at me, tell me, no, Matt, that was very prevalent in the first game as well. That's why we liked Gears, and that's fair. Again, I'm coming into this as someone who hasn't played much Gears, but to me, it does feel as if it's kind of cool to have them hopefully shift between both, and not just jump back very quickly in the middle of the game to being, open world exclusive. All right, guys, and we're about to wrap this up, but I kind of hope, in a way I don't want you guys to hear it, but I kind of do, want you to hear the light Hispanic music that's playing outside. It's loud to me, but it might not be too loud to you guys with me talking over it, although it's kind of funny, because it's really good music, but I can hear it. Anyway, so we're talking about Cyberpunk 2077. Now, this game looked interesting, and I think I want to see more from it before I consider picking it up, but I can't say that I'm not hyped, because it definitely does seem like something that's kind of different. Calling it cyberpunk though, in that way, I want to say that it kind of seems not generic, but it kind of seems like something that, I don't know, it just seems like something, it feels like it's something that we've seen a lot before, but maybe not necessarily in games, more so in movies and in books and things like that. So I have to admit, it does seem pretty interesting to me, and I want to see more before I'm like, take all my money. But definitely, they got me hyped. So they got me on the hype train, so good for them. They got me there, but again, I want to see a little bit more first. So anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap up this Matt Rants right now. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys, if you did like it, you can like and subscribe to the channel, and if you didn't like it, then you can still like and subscribe to the channel. You can do it either way. All right, guys, so and also tune in for some more of our Matt Rants, some more of my specifically. I am Matt, I'm doing the Matt Rants, more of my Matt Rants where we're covering some more E3 stuff as well. And also want to mention that if you guys want to say anything about this, maybe you think that I'm an uninformed casual noob, or that I'm informed, but yet still a casual noob. Whatever you want to say about me, please. And, if you want to discuss anything about me, totally comment in the comment section down below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say both about these games and just about the presentation overall. Do you consider Phil Spencer your overlord? I don't know. I've only seen him talk this one time, and I'm like, damn, you're good at your job. actually, before we go, I want to mention the grade, because it's kind of what this Matt Rants is about. I want to tell you what I graded the press conference. So originally, I actually graded it a B+. I thought that they delivered so many games, and how cool is that, right? But taking some time to reflect on it and also see some of the other press conferences as well, not just EA's, and kind of see how, in comparison to EA's, sure, it was better, but was it a B+? And that's the thing, guys, where, like, when you look at EA's and seeing that it was a C-, in this case, I think that at the very least, this one is a B. And the reason why it's a B and not a B+ is because while they showed so many games and that was great, they didn't necessarily delve into all of the games. They just showed some trailers here or there, or really just showed them as small little bites and didn't really add on to any kind of hype or anything like that. So while more games is not to say that it's a bad thing necessarily, and at the same time, I'm not saying that the press conference should have been shorter, and of course, I'm not saying it should have been 3 hours either. I'm just saying that I would rather. It's funny when it came to something like EA, yes, the problem was less games, but it was also the fact that they delved into certain games so much. The games that, again, felt, I mentioned this in the EA presentation highlights that I did, they were games that felt more like they were givens, like FIFA 19, Madden, NFL 19, games that you knew were coming up. Where with some of these games, some of them that you kind of know that they're happening, but they're games that aren't just your yearly sports titles. Nothing against sports titles, but again, they're on a yearly basis, they're coming up. So in this case, I think more games maybe didn't really do as much as you could have done with less games, but a bigger focus on those games. So that's just my take on it. Again, tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I mentioned earlier, please remember to like and subscribe if you liked the video, and if you didn't, you can still like and subscribe either way. Alright guys, thank you all so much. Take care and see ya.